You are walking past a house your parents could have bought, not a mansion, not some perfect house from a movie, just a normal house. 2 bedrooms, a small yard, a driveway with cracks in it, the kind of house people used to complain about because the kitchen was ugly. And somehow, that boring house became impossible. For a long time, the story sounded simple. You got a steady job, you saved for a down payment, you bought a house. You did not become rich overnight. You did not live like a celebrity. But the path made sense. Work turned into wages. Wages turned into savings. Savings turned into a home. Today, that path feels broken. You can work full-time and still feel like the house is moving away from you. You save a little, and the price goes up more. You get a raise, and rent eats it. You cut spending, and mortgage rates change. You open a listing app and stare at a normal house with a price that feels like a typo. So what happened? The answer is not one thing. It is not just greedy landlords. It is not just banks. It is not just young people buying coffee. It is a machine made out of land, debt, zoning, interest rates, investors, wages, and time. And the simplest version is this. Too many people need homes in places that did not build enough of them. That sounds boring, but it explains almost everything. Imagine a town with 10 families and 10 houses. Nobody's relaxed exactly, but the math works. Then 5 more families arrive because there are jobs nearby. The town still has 10 houses. Now the houses become an auction. The seller does not need to ask what the house is worth in some fair universe. The seller only needs to ask which family is most desperate. That is housing. When there are not enough homes, the price is not set by what feels reasonable. It is set by competition. This is what changed in many popular cities and suburbs. More people wanted to live there. Jobs concentrated there. Schools, hospitals, and offices pulled people in. But the number of homes did not keep up. Sometimes there was not much land left. Sometimes building was expensive. Sometimes zoning rules made apartments illegal on huge amounts of land. Sometimes every new building had to fight through meetings, permits, parking rules, and neighbors who said they supported housing, just not this housing, not here, not now. So the city grew. But the housing did not grow enough. The economist Edward Glaeser has written about this problem for years. His point is simple. In plain English, successful cities create opportunity. But if they block enough housing, that opportunity gets trapped inside the price of land. The job is still there. The school is still there. The city is still valuable. But the cost of entering it becomes the toll. And the toll gets higher. This is why the housing crisis feels like a personal failure even when it is not. You experience it alone. You look at your savings. You look at your paycheck. You look at your rent. You wonder what you did wrong. But you are not just fighting your own budget. You are fighting everyone else's budget too. Now add the second problem. Most people do not buy houses with cash. They buy houses with debt. That means the real price of a home is not just the sticker price. It is the monthly payment, and the monthly payment depends on interest rates. When interest rates are low, people can borrow more. A house that used to look expensive suddenly looks possible because the monthly payment is lower. So more people bid. Prices rise. For years, low rates helped push home prices higher because buyers could stretch further. Then rates went up, and buyers got hit from both sides. The house was expensive because prices had already risen. The loan was expensive because borrowing now cost more. It was like chasing a bus for years, finally reaching the door and watching the bus turn into an airplane. This also trapped current homeowners. If someone bought a house years ago with a low mortgage rate, moving became painful. Selling would mean giving up that cheap loan and buying another house with a more expensive one. So many people stayed put. Fewer homes came onto the market. Buyers fought over fewer listings. The shortage got worse. A house became something people could not afford to buy, and also something people could not afford to leave. Then came the third problem. A house stopped being just a house. For older generations, a home was already an investment, but over time that idea became much stronger. A house became a retirement plan, a safety net, a wealth machine, a way to beat inflation, a thing you were supposed to buy before it was too late. That changed the way people treated housing. If you own a home, you probably want homes to be affordable in theory. You want your children to have a chance. You want teachers and nurses and normal workers to live nearby. But you probably do not want your own house to get cheaper. You want your house to rise in value. You want the investment to work. That is the contradiction hiding under the whole crisis. Everyone says housing should be affordable. But millions of homeowners also depend on housing becoming less affordable. This is why solving it is so hard. The person locked out wants prices to fall. The person already inside wants prices to rise. Both can sound reasonable, both are protecting their future, but the house cannot do both jobs forever. It cannot be a cheap shelter for the next buyer and a guaranteed wealth machine for the current owner. Something breaks. You can see the break in the starter home. The starter home used to be small, a little ugly, maybe one bathroom, maybe bad carpet, maybe a kitchen that looked tired before you even moved in. But it existed. It was not supposed to impress anyone. It was supposed to be the first rung on the ladder. Now, in many places, that rung is missing. Builders often cannot make the math work on small cheap homes where land is expensive. If the land costs a lot, and labor costs a lot, and materials cost a lot, and permits take time, the builder has a reason to build something bigger and more expensive, not because everyone needs luxury countertops, because the numbers push them there, so fewer cheap new homes get built. Then, the pressure rolls downhill. People who would have bought a nicer home compete for a normal home. People who would have bought a normal home compete for a small home. The whole market squeezes downward until the person with the least money feels the pressure first. This is why housing is different from other things. If a phone gets too expensive, you can keep the old one. If restaurants get too expensive, you can eat at home. If a vacation gets too expensive, you can skip it. But if housing gets too expensive, you still need somewhere to sleep. You cannot unsubscribe from shelter. That gives housing enormous power over your life. It decides your commute. It decides your school district. It decides whether you can save. It decides whether a broken car ruins the month. It decides whether you can take a job, leave a job, start over, or stay close to family. A home is not just four walls, it is the platform under everything else. That is why people talk about housing with such exhaustion now. They do not talk about buying a home like it is a normal milestone. They talk about it like winning a lottery. They talk about timing the market. They talk about parents helping with the down payment. They talk about moving far away. They talk about giving up. And the target keeps moving. Rent rises, so saving gets harder. Prices rise, so the down payment gets bigger. Rates rise, so the monthly payment gets worse. Insurance rises in some places. Repairs cost more. The finish line does not sit still. It walks away while you are walking toward it. That is the part people underestimate. A home buyer is not saving toward a fixed number. They are saving toward a moving object. So what actually fixes this? The honest answer is not very dramatic. Build more homes where people need to live. Let cities add apartments, duplexes, smaller homes, and cheaper starter homes. Make permits less painful. Stop treating every new neighbor like a threat. Protect renters from the worst shocks. Be careful when investors turn entire neighborhoods into financial products. None of that fits on a bumper sticker, but the direction is simple. If a place has more people than homes, the homes become expensive. If normal workers cannot buy normal homes, the market is not producing enough normal homes. And if every homeowner needs prices to rise forever, then every future buyer is being asked to pay for someone else's retirement plan. That is the uncomfortable truth. The housing crisis is not just about houses, it is about what we decided houses should be. Shelter, or wealth, a place to live, or a thing that must always go up. For decades, society tried to make housing do both jobs at once. It worked for some people. It built wealth for millions. But it also pulled the ladder higher after them. And now, you are walking past a house your parents could have bought, not a mansion, not a fantasy, just a normal house. And somehow, normal became impossible.